All rise.
Inte Akmal, if you could kindly look at page 3 of this statutory declaration, the document before you. Can you identify that signature?
Yes, that's mine.
Your signature. So this is your statutory declaration. For the record, the witness is Akmal Nasrullah bin Muhammad Nasir. Now, you can refer to your statutory declaration. Now, you say here that you are the director of the National Oversight and Whistleblowers. That's a pretty formidable name, isn't it? National Oversight and Whistleblowers. What is this?
Well, National Oversight and Whistleblowers, or NOW Center, is a non-profit organization with the objective to institute public-driven oversight functions as well as to promote the cause of whistleblowing.
Promote the cause of whistleblowing, I see.
Yeah.
And this, in paragraph 2, you talk about the special team known as Siasat GE13. Is this part of this organization?
This one was initiated by PKR.
Who are its members?
Basically, the team was conceived with volunteers. We had about 100 of volunteers. They were from political activists. Some work in financial industry as well as statisticians, and also from the legal background.
Okay, so you had a wide range of people to as part of your team. So your responsibility, what was your responsibility as you set out in paragraph 3?
My responsibility as a part of the secretariat or coordinator is to monitor and examine each complaint that we receive, and then supervise the investigation teams to gather the evidence and witnesses of frauds and manipulations.
So you received complaints and you kind of verified complaints and made sure that there was supporting evidence also. Did you do that?
Yes, for certain areas.
Certain areas.
Yeah.
Now, you say here that you received 1,705 complaints or reports.
Correct.
As recorded. So you probably received more, but these are the ones that you investigated and...
This one we received, we went through, but not necessarily into detail.
Video recordings, testimonies and reports, and also URL link from news websites, blogs, Facebook, photos, videos, testimonies, and other relevant documents for completeness. Now, you have set out for the honorable panel the exhibits in respect of all these complaints. And the list of complaints are in your first attachment, first exhibit.
Correct.
If I could invite your honor to look at the first exhibit, but before I actually go into that, just to complete the paragraph 5, and then your second exhibit is the documentary evidence that is referred to other than video recording. So you have police reports, statutory declarations, photographs, etc., but it excludes video recordings. And then the third one are DVDs and CDs containing the video recordings, and the fourth one is the complaints, a list of complaints mentioned, list of complaints in DVD form relating to indelible ink. Okay, we got the complete picture. So now we just briefly shall look, and I invite your honors to look at the first exhibit. It's tabbed 1. So you have this, it refers to exhibit 2, which has identified or which has marked the document with this number. Is that right?
Yep.
And then you put also in your final column the witness in respect of the that particular complaint. Am I right?
Yes.
So let's take an example. Okay, let's take the last one so we can see it. So you have, for example, the last one in Libaran. Libaran is where is
In Sabah.
in Sabah. So you say here, the chief of Sungai Beruang, Ali Karar bin Oto, was bribing to gain votes, forced the villagers gathered there to take an oath, and broke the law by campaigning after the lawful campaign period. Police report number such and such attached. And then you say Otting, the witness is Otting bin Nunsi alias NG.
Correct.
So the type of complaint, this is the summary of the complaint about the chief of the Sungai Beruang doing this infraction. And then the evidence is here, E0022, which will appear in this document itself. And then you also have the name of the witness. That's correct, huh?
Yes.
Being not inedible, we get confused about the role of the indelible ink. So indelible ink not being indelible, that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So more than 1,000 complaints from a wide range of areas, only one constituency.
Across the country.
Across the country, east to west, north to south.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Now you have also yes, and this you have included ANM 4, which is in the form of a DVD. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Nowadays, people don't have instruments to play DVD. You know, you make it difficult. You must upgrade your technology. PowerPoint,
we want
the
to
pen
save-
drives.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, in your paragraph 8, you make one caveat here. You say you are providing these documents to Bersih and the People's Tribunal on condition, you impose a condition, on condition that the identity and other details of the witnesses shall be kept confidential and not disclosed to the public. But this is a public tribunal, you see. This is, so why do you suggest that?
Because those complaints that we receive come with complete address and contact numbers.
On that, what you have collected here are complaints that would be used in evidence in the petitions that would be filed because of to nullify the particular seat, right?
Okay.
So they would have to be at least, of course it's not going to be publicized, but they will have to be contained in the petition, and the persons would have to be identified to be credible, right?
We
No, I'm not saying,
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying that we are going to therefore now publish this out there. But I just find it very odd, because this is not a police state, that we cannot, I mean, look at something which you have complained, and I take it that these complaints are truthfully made, that therefore you are in fear. Because it doesn't give a good, I mean, that itself suggests that we are in a, what, a state of police state, that they have reprisals. So I take exception, I think, to the suggestion, because it may give that impression. But, so these are complaints that form the basis of the various petitions that have been filed. Is that correct?
We receive complaints from
I know.
across the country.
Across the country, but you in election petitions, would that be correct?
My knowledge only limited to PKR petitions.
PKR petitions. So how many petitions have been
For
filed in,
20 petitions.
by PKR alone,
Yeah,
or the coalition,
PKR alone.
PKR alone? And do you know whether they have been disposed of?
Almost all of them,
Uh-huh.
except one.
Have been disposed of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and maybe perhaps most of them have been struck out, or have you won any election petition?
Not one.
All have been struck out on technical grounds?
Yeah.
Any succeeded to go at least into the merits
There is one
Yes.
in Kota Marudu.
in Kota
Marudu,
Marudu
Sabah.
in Sabah? So the rest all have been struck out, huh?
Yeah.
And I think the total costs, when you total all the costs, come to millions?
Well,
Thousand?
if you average about 50 to 60,000 per constituent, so most likely 1 million
Yeah.
cost.
So the costs come to about $1 million, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Sorry,
missed that. How
yeah.
many petitions have been filed?
20, I think the party decided not to go
Because
because you lost in large majority, because for the petitions you need to prove the requirements, which is all these complaints must be able to change the results,
Affect the outcome.
affect the outcome. So,
but here, this is a SPR officer
Yeah.
himself complaining that his other SPR officers had to give up their ballot papers and then were given money.
Yeah.
Do you know how many election officers or SPR officers there are? Do you know throughout the country? Do you know how many during at election time?
I don't.
There are thousands,
know.
isn't it?
Yeah.
There are about 178,000, we are told. 178,000. And they get ballot papers, they get to vote early. As I understand it, postal votes. Right? And we have heard that these people can actually go and vote again.
Is that right? You are aware of that?
I cannot confirm on that.
Oh. No, but you know that this is,
I
there are
heard
complaints.
about the, yeah, I heard about the stories.
In fact, Your Honor, this particular complaint, number 20 that you have identified, if you look at page 149,
This is the venue where we can pass the report, so someone or better group to take the further investigations.
No, counsel, can we know whether there is a number which the courts will say this is material on the impact, has an impact on the outcome of the seat? And this number doesn't, 15,000 we are told does not have an impact, because that was what I think Puan Nurul said yesterday. The judge said something like, well, she won by she won by a small margin. But Mr. Tian Chua, I think,
yes.
said that, yeah, he won by 15,000, so there's no need for any, it's not going to change matters, right?
Yes. I think if we refer to page 62 of our election, of
Yeah.
this book, Election Laws, it talks about avoidance of election on election petitions, and two of them, general bribery treating, is related to the fact that it must have affected the result of the election. So under 32A, general bribery, general treating, or general intimidation, so extensive that it can be reasonably supposed to have affected the result of the election. And then non-compliance with provisions of any written law relating to the conduct of the elections, again, and that such non-compliance affected the outcome of the election. I think that's what the witness is referring to. But there is also, and as Your Honor has seen, that we return to the Basel principle, the very basic principle, to keep in mind that free and fair elections is not a fanciful word that is to be bandied about once every 5 years, but because it is so critical to choice, to the proper choice to be made, that the purity, the sanctity of the whole election process must not be dependent upon, whether or not you lost or you did not lose. You see, like in the case of Puan Nurul Izzah, the candidate, she won. So she's got a lot of complaints. That's why she came here. She got a lot of complaints to make, but she will not bring it up, because to bring it up means to nullify her own elections, number one, and she won't be, she obviously will not do that. And also because she cannot complain to have assuaged her complaint or resolved her complaint in any other way. So we would indeed, I want to observe your Honour's comment is very critical, that if we do not do something to suggest changes to this whole way in which the legislation is framed, then there is clear opportunity for this to continue without any sanctions ever being brought to public knowledge or being rectified. So this would be one of our important submissions that we make. For example, the opposition says, you should not take these objections, and we are aggrieved because 1 million costs have to be paid. But at the same time, you take advantage of that same objection to knock others off.
You also ask, you want the cost as well, and give it
And-
to your lawyers.
And you want the cost as well, and you collect the costs. Although you pay to your lawyers, I mean, lawyers take all the costs all the time, but that's another issue,
Okay.
for another people's tribunal.
Are there any principles about the electoral system in the Constitution which could be used to challenge the legislation, where it restricts access to courts or?
I think we actually don't even have to go that far, because there have been decisions that have been made that, for example, like on the question of avoidance of election, where it's dependent on outcome, and then there are clear observations which form the basis of the judgment, that you just cannot look at the question of outcome, because there is a bigger issue involved, which is the sanctity of the election process. That's one. And then, for example, 9A, the electoral roll cannot be questioned at all. That was as a result, we will show what was the case that prompted that amendment. There was a case which examined in Sabah the illegal voters and came to the conclusion that the electoral roll was at fault. There were people who were not enfranchised, not entitled now. And we had the ex-CJ who just, I showed the paper cutting of the CJ, who makes this incredulous statement that this is the right way to go to deal with election petitions, taking pride in the fact that when I was a lawyer, he says, I also will take technical objections, missing the substance. That is the head of the judiciary, the pith of the substance. So this will form our submissions also to show that we need reforms, and we need reforms urgently across the divide. Across the divide.
Look forward to that.
Yes. So you see, you heard my ceramah a bit, isn't it? Huh?
Good ceramah.
So you see, the point that is being made is that, are you a member of PKR?
I'm close to PKR, but not active as a member.
Yeah, you better not join until they observe the strictures that have been talked about, huh? But the point then is that this maybe I'll leave the point at this stage. Now, you also wanted to show us some video recordings in relation to this.
Adik yang tidak ada namanya, sama yang tidak ada. Yang tidak ada, fikir, dia tahu kalau pakai fikir. Habis sanarai nama yang jantan pertama. Yang ini baliknya sampai ke mana ini? Yang jantan pertama itu yang daftar pemilih 2012. Nah, jadi sekali sampai ini, kalau dia bilang punya nama, habis bilang ini belakang didaftar, mendaftar. Jadi yang segmen sekarang ini bulan 2 2013. Tidak boleh marah itu, tidak boleh marah. Lamanya sudah berapa tahun kok baru daftar? Gila.
From my observation, in the beginning of the video, the guy with the striped shirt is the chief village.
Ano mo? Muhammad ka? Kamu betul-betul itu dunia akhirat. Bukan apa, ini yang diminta sama kami, aku harap kamu betul. Ini dengan kerana Allah. Kamu jarang tergampar, cuma bilang anu saja. Jadi sama-sama kita.
Masa kempen memasak pusat kan? Macam mana?
Well, the chief village asked the guy to swear in the name of God that he should vote for BN, etc. And then he agrees, and then he got the money.
Okay, the lights, please.
Complaints and outcry. So the Rafizi Ramli, the one of the leader, PKR leader, made a public announcement, appeal to public. If you think frauds happen, come with the evidence, and we will do the investigations.
But then that was not addressed to any particular party member.
No, we open to anyone to submit the information.
But you only received from opposition party.
So far, it seems like only one side got into trouble about elections.
Does the other party have also a similar mechanism?
Not in my knowledge, but if you can go through their petitions, you can see how, I would say, superficial it is compared to our petitions when we provided all the witness and evidence before we submit the petitions.
I think in
You are
fairness,
so you are going to give us
Yes.
petitions of all, right?
yes, yes. So in fairness to
Yes,
the
okay.
other side, this is his personal comment that is superficial,
Yes.
but we will provide the actual
Okay,
petition.
thank
But we have not been
Yeah.
able to get all, but we have certainly got a few. And if I can speak for the other side, I'm obliged to present all sides, I suppose, although the other side. And Bersih was responsible for introducing phantom voters. So the point therefore is that he acknowledges, so the important point that it establishes it is that there were phantom voters who played a role. So it's not only the opposition that talking about phantom voters, but publicly the Barisan National Secretary General acknowledging that there exist phantom voters. And for us conducting the People's Tribunal proceedings, what is important is the existence of them more than the question of finding fault as to who brought who and when and where.
And who they voted for.
And who they voted for, yes. So that is our concern, that indeed it's now acknowledged publicly by all sides that phantom voters played a role in the last elections. That is our point. So Mr. Akmal, if there are no other questions, I pray leave that he be released, the witness. Encik Akmal, thank you very
Okay,
much
thank you
for
very
your
much.
assistance.
Thanks.
Oh,
You
so I
can-
suddenly realize it's one beyond the lunch hour.
I think we should break for lunch. How many more witnesses do you
We
have?
do not, actually, we do not have that many more witnesses now. We have, according to our record, 1, 2, 3 witnesses.
Yes,
And I believe that one of them is very short,
yes.
and then one is not in respect of which he identified, and he has presented in very neat form. We told him just 1 or 2 sentences, he has indeed
Very
done
good,
that.
yeah, thanks.
That's one. And then secondly, although the Election Commission is not represented here, again I'm obliged to, in fulfillment of my role as a presenter or in an inquiry as opposed to a prosecutor, give me one. We'll also deliver to your chambers. The Election Commission came up with a document quite early on, and we have laid our hands on this, and say the truth behind the accusation and lies towards the Election Commission. So they have, in fact, it's not dated, but they referred to 12 allegations, including the issue of phantom voters, which all parties say existed, and we will make this available as well for necessary evaluation in the light of all the rest of the evidence that has
Are
come
these
forward.
allegations made to us, or are these allegations made in the
No, these are-
public domain?
No, these are the allegations made, for example, by various parties like the MERAP,
Yes,
which was presented here,
yes,
and those in the public domain made by Bersih.
yes, okay.
And we will have as the last witness the Bersih's, one of the co-chairmen of Bersih.
Yes.
That is indeed an observation with which I can identify myself, that really we can't keep going back in time. But these were allegations about, for example, moving people around, why they moved people around. They said, look, this is the role of the chief registrar. We have to do it because it's accurate and so on and so forth. So I thought since we presented evidence to the contrary, for completeness, I thought maybe this is, but it's entirely in your discretion whether.
Yeah. Yes, it'll be,
Yes.
maybe, I know you tried to contact them earlier, but is it worth asking them now?
Yes,
They may have been reading about the proceedings, if they want to
yes.
enter
In fact,
a rebuttal.
in fact, they made a comment. They said this tribunal is here to sentence them to resign.